what I think it's fascinating is that this evolutionary pressure is ironically uh, making us behave as as a retroevolution, right?
Yeah.
Like the selective pressure is unearthing a code that we have in our genes to behave as more unicellular organisms, and I think that's ironic, right? That the
Yeah, that's the
future is driving us
fascinating
to the
part.
past. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fascinating part, which is that how can you have two phenotypes which look exactly the same? In fact, all cancers actually are share a lot of features. All malignant cancers share a lot of features. And how can that be, right? How can a breast cancer cell share a lot of features with colon cancer or prostate cancer or whatever cancer, right? So this is the thing is that why does it act like that? And that's the fascinating part of trying to apply the evolutionary theory to cancer is that what you wind up coming up with is that it's not a evolution forward, it's more this evolutionary backwards. That is the way that we all developed from millions of years ago from a single-celled organisms. Those single-celled organisms have all the characteristics of a cancerous cell. As we evolved from single-celled organisms to multiple cell organisms, what you have to realize is that there is a massive change in the way that cells have to interact. So single-celled organisms compete with each other for resources. Once you get multiple celled organisms like we are, then you have to cooperate. But the way that we develop is that we don't simply erase those parts of the genetic code. What you do is you build code on top of it and say, code to inactivate parts of the cancerous cell and other code to sort of do other things. So when you start to, so that sort of core, that sort of kernel of cancer actually exists in every single cell, in every single multiple celled organism. So not just us, but dogs and cats and rats and plants and all that sort of thing. So when you start to evolve, when you start to have selection pressure towards survival, what happens is that you sort of unearth the most survivable part of the cell, which is that original single-celled organism. Because if you think about how each cancer cell acts as a celled organism, as it competes with others, it grows, destroys tissue around it, it does all things, even its bioenergetics, come from sort of evolution path is the Berg effect, which is this the idea of going to metabolize glucose, and even though there's plenty of oxygen, you're not using oxidative phosphorylation, you're using a different you generate lactate and so on. So this whole idea is that this explains why cancer exists in every single one of our organs. It explains why cancer exists in multiple species. So if you're looking for what's causing cancer and you're looking at humans, cancer is not a human disease. It spans every single multi-celled organism. So the question is, what's stopping us? And this is the thing that's interesting, is that the thing that's stopping us is that cancerous changes are actually happening all the time. So there are cells that are under stress that may undergo cancerous change. And our body knows this. And our body has a very strict immune surveillance system to go after it. So it's not like that cancer doesn't exist and then it exists when you get older and you get, your tumor. No, it's there all the time. Cancerous transformations are happening all the time, but your immune system is basically wiping them out. It's basically going around, finds them and kills them. So again, this explains why when you take immune suppressing drugs, you get cancer. If you give somebody a renal transplant or liver transplant or whatever, you take these three, usually three or four super, super immune suppressing drugs. And that's because you want to prevent rejection. Well, one of the known side effects of that is that if you have an underlying cancer, that cancer goes crazy. It grows like nobody's business, right? And so, in fact, And this happens all the time. You give it to kids and you can see cancers as soon as you start suppressing their immune system. Why? Because what's keeping the cancerous cells in check is the immune system. And when you suppress it, you allow these cancer cells to sort of grow. Again, you can't explain that because suppressing the immune system is not a mutagenic thing. It doesn't increase gene mutations when you suppress the immune system. It's not
Yeah.
mutagenic, right? But what it is a decrease in immune surveillance. So all of these sort of things about cancer that people don't understand are simply because they're locked into this sort of paradigm that doesn't explain it. And what we're trying to do with the evolutionary paradigm of cancer, which is as an atavism, is not to say that the gene mutation is are not there. It's going one step further and saying, we're trying to understand cancer at this deeper level.
Yeah.
It's only at understanding that deeper level that you can develop treatments that are going to be more
Yeah.
successful.